The sloping ceiling swooped down either side of a narrow arched window through which, on a bright morning such as this, the sun would stream in golden shafts. If Maisie strained herself up on tiptoe, her nose just reached the windowsill and she could see out. And what a wonderful, curious world there was outside. She hadn't been the only occupant of the room, of course. There were 5 other beds, each one occupied by another little girl. She knew they were girls because they were constantly being chivied. "Come along now, girls. Hurry up and remember silence." So they were all called girls, as were all the others they met in the rest of the building. But then, if you weren't a girl, what else could you be? Unless you were one of the sisters, of course. "Wakey, wakey, sleepyheads. Time to get up. I trust you're all dry this morning." The room clamped down in silence as each child scrambled to the bottom of her bed and all eyes turned on Maisie. She vaguely remembered that she'd woken up cold and wet a few times, but that was a long, long time ago. Since before that magical time of Christmas. So why they should all look at her, she didn't know. She felt her cheeks flush, not from embarrassment, but from anger. But when Sister Agnes tilted her head and beamed directly at her, Maisie's little chest swelled with pride. She liked Sister Agnes best out of all the nuns. Some of them could be so strict, but they looked after you and told you off. They wore long black dresses that reached their ankles and black scarves that covered their heads. Maisie often wondered whether or not they actually had hair beneath. They almost seemed a different race to her. But you had to do whatever they said, no matter what. "Right, get yourselves dressed then." Sister Agnes clapped her hands, and Maisie reached for her knickers that were waiting on the little table next to her bed. She hopped about, first on one leg, then the other, as she pulled the underwear up underneath her voluminous nightgown. For woe betide any girl who showed any of her private parts. It was the same with the vest that somehow you had to put on under cover of your nightie. Maisie poked her head through the top and pushed the vest down under the yoke of the nightgown. But pulling her arms out of the nightgown sleeves and through those of the vest was a struggle that always took her longer than everyone else. "Let me help you, dear." Thank goodness Sister Agnes was being extra kind that day, and Maisie wondered why that might be. But you learned not to ask questions. So she said a polite thank you as Sister Agnes helped her wriggle into her vest. Then she raised her arms when the sister finally lifted her nightgown over her head and slid the drab summer uniform dress over her shoulders in its place. Just the black knitted woolen stockings now. How Maisie hated those, especially when it was so warm, and the scuffed hand-me-down shoes that were pinching her toes recently. "Oh, Helen Driscoll, you ready? Be a good girl and help Maisie with her shoes, will you? Or we'll be late and there won't be time for breakfast before prayers, so there won't." As soon as Sister Agnes had turned her back, Helen pulled a face at Maisie. Kneeling down in front of her, the older girl roughly grasped one of her ankles, shoved her foot into the first shoe and fastened the buckle. The stocking was rucked up, making it uncomfortable, and Maisie was about to say so when Helen glanced up with a nasty glint in her eye. "Don't see why I should touch you, smelly wet the bed," she hissed under her breath, before dealing just as uncaringly with Maisie's other foot. Tears stung Maisie's eyes. That wasn't fair. But she couldn't think of anything to say. She'd just have to put up with uncomfortable feet until she had a chance to sort them out for herself. No one would be very happy with her if she made them all miss their bread and butter and milk, and they all had to go to the toilet and wash their hands and faces before they'd be allowed anywhere near the food. Once they'd all visited the washroom, they were marched down 2 flights of stairs to the refectory, where they met all the other girls lined up at the tables. Grace was pronounced by the Reverend Mother, and they all ate in silence. Then they climbed the stairs again to clean their teeth, before descending once more to the chapel. Maisie loved that time of the day. It was so quiet and calm, despite so many girls squeezed together. Everyone was silent, apart from the murmurings that were part of the service. Maisie couldn't remember the words most of the time. They made little sense to her. But she kneeled on the hard floor and put her hands together in prayer like everyone else. She made herself screw her eyes tight shut. But slowly they seemed to open on their own. No one ever noticed. The chapel had a certain dusty smell to it, and on a sunny morning she found the tiny flecks of dust dancing in the air fascinating to watch. She imagined each one was an angel sent by God to make her happy.